While in most of the games you play with a single character where you explore his lonely journey, there are others where the protagonist is not alone, but is accompanied by another character throughout the game. A companion character, secondary yet important enough to be always with you. There are a lot of examples for companion characters. Most of them are there for a reason, either that could be for story purposes like The Last of Us, where the whole story is based in the connection of the two characters. It could be so that the game is playable for co-op at any time, like Army of Two and Resident Evil 5, or to add some mechanics to the game. And in contrast of how good they implement their reason, some elevate the game through this choice, like Bioshock Infinite and God of War. And in others, the character can feel like too much of a burden, making the player feel like it would be better without them. Welcome to Creator's Mindset, and in this episode we will take a closer look at companion characters and what developers keep in mind in order to make them work properly. In order to make those characters feel like there are a reason to be there, developers try to support their existence not only story-wise, but also from a gameplay perspective. In that way, developers try to embed those characters with different mechanics working with the protagonist, so that they feel more valuable and organic to the experience. As Ken Levine, the director of Bioshock, said,
it was very important to us that what was happening with the character Elizabeth in the narrative was reflected in what she did in gameplay, because we wanted her not just to be a character that appeared when we needed a narrative moment. We wanted her to be integrated into the entire experience.
In 2008 reboot of Prince of Persia, we introduced Welika, where she is there to help you explore the world through platforming mechanics, letting you reach grounds that otherwise could not, and also in combat, where you can combo your attacks with her, dealing more damage and making the fight more interesting. And where all that adds to the overall experience, the balance with the main character can turn it around. Prince stays exactly the same throughout the game, with no upgrades or other additions to his character. But instead for Elika, we have a progression system unlocking new skills. This could happen so that they feel more of a duo, while in the end it gives an impression that Elika got more attention in contrast with the Prince, leading to the deprivation of the latter. In Bioshock Infinite, we have again a character that is very active in the game. While keeping the main core of the gameplay from the original Bioshock, Elizabeth brings some very interesting mechanics to the game along with her story. Elizabeth has the ability to connect different versions of the world, and so in the gameplay she can bring different stuff for the player, like supplies when they run out, cover to protect them from enemies, and even reinforcements at the press of the button. By being able to choose for themselves if they need Elizabeth to act and in which way to act in battle, the game allows to choose the way each want to approach every fight, creating a more strategic and personal experience. But a good companion does not necessarily have to be embedded with certain mechanics as we saw from The Last of Us. Ellie's role is mainly kept in story and dialogues when exploring areas, but there the player needs to feel like Joel, and more realism was needed so that they feel the pressure of the battle and that it is them who pushing through enemy lines and protecting Ellie. Here, a good developed AI is needed so that she can feel realistic in the different situations that will come up, and to be vigilant, not missing the stealth parts, frustrating the players, feeling like it was the game's fault. And those who will sometimes apply them with bricks and fire some bullets when the fight breaks, all that need to be in moments where it would be believable, but more importantly to the player's interest. While they cannot just count on her help when the odds are not in their favor to turn them around, with a good AI reading how each one plays, manages almost always to get a brick when everyone needs it. In that way, the intended experience is given to the player. Complicated AIs and invisible characters unable to die is developers' way in creating an experience where the player does not feel like carrying a burden with them, making their life difficult, but an interesting companion. But what if the developer wants to keep players' attention on those characters and how they use them? Griffon and Shadow, these pets in Devil May Cry 5 both come with health bars. They serve pretty much as a weapon, and since it is them that they deal all the damage, the developer wanted to keep the player from smashing the buttons randomly, dealing damage with no possible consequences. Now that the player have to keep attention in their health bar, they think better the attacks of each one of them, and they start to play more committed and thoughtfully to what V has to offer. And while V's role in combat is limited to delivering the final blow, the game has its own way of making the player be in the heart of the battle and not just setting attacks from afar, making Griffon and Shadow's health regeneration rate depending on their distance from V. With V's role so limited, we don't have something like Prince of Persia feeling like V is under design. And that's happening because the whole design of V is based on the control of Griffon and Shadow from the ground up, and that reflects to his personality as well in gameplay.
He who desires but act not breeds pestilence. So it is written.
Okay, Shakespeare, just remember this. You and I like to exist, so get rid of those demons quick, cause killing them ain't my stick. I got your back, cause dying is whack.
And when you're having a powerful character and still want a meaningful companion, you do something like Atreus from God of War, a character so deeply rooted to Kratos' main mechanics that transforms him into a game-changer tool. As Jeff Stroff, gameplay director of God of War, stated,
You have a character like Kratos who really doesn't need any help in combat. And so that was one of the biggest challenges of trying to figure out how could Atreus be that supporting character but not take the sort of focus off Kratos.
And in game, Kratos is still powerful, with his combat skill tree and upgrades capable of holding up. Atreus comes and tweaks this style of gameplay a little bit, bridging another dimension. Like Elizabeth, Shadow and Griffon, the game allows the player to use him strategically in combat. By dedicating a button, it is they who now controls him, and with the button they can do a number of stuff to spice up the battle. His AI is limited in the beginning, he may tackle some enemies or try to choke them, keeping them in place for a moment. But as the player starts to upgrade him, they can choose the way they want the AI to help them in combat by choosing different armor sets. He can be more active in the fight, kicking enemies back at Kratos to continue the combo, choke them for a longer time and expose their weakness, or some can choose to help them by finding health stones if they are not playing that safely. Also in combat, when attacking an enemy with his arrow, the AI will be tricked into chasing him around for a while, and utilizing this, the player can divide groups, focus on certain enemies first, or hit an enemy in the back. Multiple runic attacks comes also with different effects. For example, say someone wants ground control, Murderer of Crows. Others might use more the range meter, so they can use Bitter Squealer to quickly fill the range meter. And if someone wants just pure runic damage and stagger the enemy, there is a Storm of Alex. Different arrow types also comes in handy, as they can apply stun damage and chain it with Bearfish attacks to quickly add up the stun meter, hit multiple enemies with shock arrows and stagger the enemy holding them in place, or cancelling their attacks. All this and a dedicated skill tree is the arsenal the game gives to the player in order to experiment with them and find their own playstyle. And the possibilities go even further as they learn and understand the fight system better and unlock new abilities. Though someone could ignore him, after all Kratos is still powerful, the game has its own way on reminding him that he can use him, with certain enemies like the Revenants, where Atreus needs to fire arrows first in order for Kratos' attacks to work. And yet he does not stop in combat. In puzzles he does more than just take chains, but his mechanics allow for more puzzle variations, and using the same arrow mechanics as in combat, they are able to make the puzzles more diverse throughout the story, so that the player does not have to repeat the same things always, but by utilizing always different mechanics together, more variations comes up, and there are even collectibles dedicated to him.
Treasure map! Alright!
So as we can understand, there can be different kinds of companion characters depending on their role, but in order to be good, you need to understand what kind of feeling you want to give to the player while playing the game, so you utilize the character properly. Just a good AI would fit if you want the player to feel the pressure of the battle or to enjoy a good story. But when you're looking on making the game more diverse and personal, you need to have a certain depth on that character, so that the players don't feel like they're babysitting, but there is a reason to use their mechanics. And that reason comes from being able to create different kinds of situations where his role would be vital and help the main character continue forward, meaning you would have to expand your design to include their role in puzzles, platforming, combat or what else gameplay structure you choose for the game. Thanks for watching, and share your thoughts in the comments below about companion characters, which made the game better for you and which frustrated you the most.